Hey, welcome to The Explainer. I want you to just take a second and look around you. The food in your fridge, the device you're watching this on, even the clothes you're wearing. Odds are, a ship brought them to you. We're talking about a piece of technology that's so fundamental, so ever-present, we barely even notice it. And yet, it's the machine that literally built the modern world we live in. Check out this number, 11 billion. That's how many tons of stuff get hauled across the world's oceans by ships every single year. It's a scale that's almost impossible to wrap your head around, right? A constant, silent engine that's just always running, powering our entire global economy. These massive, colossal vessels, they're the direct descendants of a technological journey that goes back thousands and thousands of years. It's an incredible story of human ingenuity, of really bold exploration, and yeah, of pretty brutal conflict. So the question is, where did it all begin? Okay, so our story starts way back in antiquity. And what's fascinating is that we see two totally different approaches to mastering the water, basically born out of two very different needs and environments.
So on one hand, you got ancient Egypt. They absolutely mastered shipbuilding, but they did it on the calm, predictable waters of the Nile. I mean, vessels like the Khufu ship were absolute marvels of construction, but at the end of the day, they were riverboats. But at the same time, across the massive, unpredictable Pacific Ocean, the Austronesian peoples were developing something completely revolutionary. They were inventing the technology for true open ocean crossing.
And the tech they came up with, it was an absolute game changer. Just look at this stuff. Outriggers to give them stability in really rough seas, catamarans, durable sails woven from pandan leaves, and the incredibly efficient crab claw rig. This wasn't about just hugging a coastline. No way. This was the technology that unlocked the entire Pacific Ocean. It allowed them to colonize a territory that stretched all the way from Madagascar to Easter Island. We're talking nearly half the globe. But, as seafaring spread, so did conflict. In the ancient Mediterranean, the ship went through this radical transformation. It went from being a tool for transport and trade to a dedicated weapon of war, and that sparked the world's very first naval arms race. And right at the heart of this arms race was the naval ram. Now, this thing didn't just pop into existence overnight. It evolved. It started as these simple cutwater projections, really just to make the ship a little faster. Then came bronze sheathing. These proto-rams were mostly for defense. The boar's head ram was a big leap forward, a blunt instrument that was way less likely to get stuck in an enemy ship. But the final and frankly terrifying evolution was the three-bladed waterline ram, a massive cast bronze weapon designed for one single purpose: to rip open and sink other ships. But here's the catch. In the beginning, actually using one of these rams was a huge gamble. See, the warships themselves were built using this technique called laced construction, where the planks of the hull were literally tied together with cords. Now, that flexible design was good for some things, but it meant the shock of ramming another ship could shatter the attacker just as easily as the target. This quote from nautical archaeologist Shelley Waxman just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the brutal reality of early naval combat. Ramming an enemy ship was basically a mutual risk. You had to hope your ship could take the hit better than theirs. For a while, it was a total 50-50 shot. The weapon had simply evolved faster than the ships that were carrying it. The real breakthrough, the game changer, was a change in how the ships themselves were built, pegged mortise and tenon joinery. By fitting planks together with these strong, interlocking joints, builders created a much more rigid and durable hull. Finally, the ship could withstand the incredible stress of impact. And just like that, the ram went from a desperate gamble to a decisive winning weapon. All right, so let's fast forward a bit. For the next couple of thousand years, shipbuilding just kept getting better, paving the way for the age of exploration and the rise of huge global empires. But the next really great leap came with the Industrial Revolution. This was when ships didn't just connect empires, they started weaving together the threads of a single, interconnected global economy. The Industrial Revolution just changed everything at sea. Steam power completely broke the tyranny of the wind. Suddenly, for the first time in history, you could have reliable schedules. Then steel hulls let ships get bigger and stronger than ever before. And then, in the 1950s, came the last piece of the modern puzzle, the standardized shipping container. Think about it, a simple metal box that completely changed the speed, the efficiency, and the sheer scale of global trade forever. And the result of all that innovation? Well, today, there are roughly 50,000 large merchant ships constantly crisscrossing the world's oceans. It's a vast floating network that never,
ever stops.
So what are all these ships actually carrying? Well, this is what I find so interesting. The huge majority, as you can see, are not carrying the stuff we buy in stores. 43% are bulk carriers moving raw materials like grain and iron ore. Another 28% are oil tankers. The container ships, the ones that bring us our phones and our sneakers, they only make up about 13% of the entire fleet. It just goes to show how much of the global economy is really about moving the fundamental building blocks of everything.
Okay, so we have this incredible global machine, this network that delivers so much of our world right to our doorstep. But, and this is a big but, it all comes with a hidden and pretty significant cost to our planet.
When we think of pollution from ships, our minds usually go to those catastrophic oil spills. And that danger is very, very real. The infamous Exxon Valdez spill, for instance, was about 10.8 million gallons of oil. To put that in perspective, a single large tanker today can carry over 6 times that amount. A spill from one of those would be an environmental disaster on a scale that's just, it's hard to even imagine.
But there's a quieter, more insidious problem that happens literally every single day. It's called ballast water. To keep these huge ships stable when they're empty, they pump in seawater in one port and then release it in another one halfway across the world. And in doing so, they're essentially giving a free ride to thousands of marine species, introducing them into ecosystems where they have zero natural predators.
And if you want to see just how devastating this can be, look at this. In the 1980s, ballast water accidentally introduced an American calm jelly into the Black Sea. The impact was absolutely catastrophic. Just look at what happened to the anchovy catch. It collapsed from over 200,000 tons to basically nothing in less than a decade. An entire regional economy completely wiped out by a single tiny stowaway. And the impact isn't just in the water. The exhaust from these ships is a massive source of air pollution. According to one estimate, the global shipping fleet produces as much sulfur, a key ingredient in acid rain, as all of the cars, all of the trucks, and all of the factories in Europe combined. Just let that sink in for a second. So this brings us to the fundamental challenge we're facing right now. The ship is without a doubt the machine that made our modern, interconnected world possible. But its operation now poses a really serious threat to the health of our planet. And so the big question we're left with is, can we find a way to balance the demands of global trade with the desperate need for a sustainable future? That is one of the great challenges of our time.